I reached my first $100,000 invested 4 years ago when I was 29 years old, earning around $70,000 a year from my full-time career as a software engineer in a coastal town on the central coast of California. Just 1 year later, my portfolio doubled and now it's around $400,000. I'm going to lay out my exact 3-step blueprint that will help you reach your first $100,000 invested regardless of your income. The truth is, most people overcomplicate investing. They think they need a complex strategy, perfect timing, or a 6-figure income. But what I experienced was the opposite. By keeping it simple and focusing on my next milestone, I accomplished what could sound improbable on paper. Step 1, make it a priority. The biggest difference between those who reach their financial milestones and those who don't isn't income. It's actually having clear priorities. When you make building wealth a genuine priority, growing your portfolio becomes inevitable. Around 2020 and 2021, I found myself at a financial crossroads. I had been working as a software engineer for the Department of Defense, making about $70K a year in a medium cost of living coastal town in California. I was on a traditional path to success, and my next step was to purchase a home because that's what I thought was the next financially responsible thing to do. It's what everybody in my inner circle was doing. My uncles would ask me, when are you buying a house? So I signed up for a personal finance course being offered locally because I had no idea where to start with the home buying process. But during the retirement module, something unexpected happened. When I was playing around with the retirement calculator, it actually let me input any age, not just 65. I remember being a little confused and then curious. I started with age 65, of course, and then I dropped it down to 60, then 55, then 50, just to see what would happen. And the only number that I saw change on my screen was the amount that I needed to invest every single month. At the time, I was investing $800 a month, and what I saw on my screen was that if I invested $500 more a month, so a total of $1,300 a month, I would be able to invest an entire decade earlier than what I thought was traditional retirement. So that was kind of when a light bulb moment happened for me. I realized that the more that I invest, the earlier I could retire. So suddenly this idea of financial independence entered my brain. I really thought I was the first millennial to have this epiphany moment. I didn't realize there was a FIRE movement. I didn't realize there was this whole community of personal finance on the internet already. And I actually got really excited about this idea of retiring earlier. And it wasn't just the math that excited me. It was this clear picture that I got into the future. I saw myself waking up without an alarm clock, not having to take my coffee to go and drive to an office that didn't even have a window. And I saw a life that was designed around my priorities and my interests, not an office job. And I also saw myself having time to contribute to projects that I really cared about. And even though I experienced this moment, the shift in priority from home ownership to investing for financial independence didn't happen instantly. I actually tried doing both. The housing market was really competitive at this time. There was low inventory and the interest rates were even lower. One of my offers got accepted, but then the seller wouldn't really budge on lowering the price to match the appraisal rate. And then after that, the closest that I got was being the backup buyer after somebody had beat me because they had a bigger cash gap. So after about a year of not having any success in the market and finding the home that I felt good with at the price that I wanted, I decided to make pursuing financial independence my priority. So I went on to invest my down payment in 2021, and then I began to channel most of my disposable income into my investment accounts. So instead of saving for a down payment, I actually chose to put everything towards my investments. And I'm actually going to keep doing that until I have about $750,000 invested. What I learned about reaching financial goals from that experience was that you have to have a priority. and that being successful is going to require you to have a true priority, meaning you have one thing that you're focused completely on. And if you're wondering if investing should be your priority, should be your number one thing to do with your disposable income, understanding the financial needs hierarchy is really going to help you out here. Similar to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the financial hierarchy is going to start with the basics. You're going to start with cash flow and covering your essential needs like food and housing. The next level is financial safety, so building a emergency fund and getting proper insurances. Then comes accumulating wealth through investments and debt payoff, followed by financial freedom and legacy planning on top. If you don't have any money after your bills, you need to focus on your cash flow. If you don't have an emergency fund, then that is going to be your priority. If you don't have proper insurances, then you should focus on putting your income towards that. And please do not buy whole life insurance. Think term life, think car insurance, renter's insurance, and those kinds of things. And if you have high interest, you're going to want to make that your priority. When I prioritized investing over homeownership, I was making a deliberate choice of choosing the accumulating wealth level of the hierarchy. And that aligned with my ultimate goal of becoming financially independent. I was able to do that because I had disposable income, I had an emergency fund, I had the proper insurances, and I didn't have any debt. So to apply this to your own life, take some time to identify what your true financial priority is for the next 1 to 3 years. Is it adjusting your cash flow so that you have more money to invest? Is it building up an emergency fund? Is it picking the proper insurances so that you have that peace of mind? Or is it paying off that high interest debt? Focus on that one priority and make decisions that support it, even if those decisions go against conventional wisdom. Remember that while you can have anything, you can't have everything. You can't prioritize everything at once. That's not how you're going to make meaningful progress. Progress is going to come from picking one priority and aligning all of your decisions towards that. Step number 2, reduce your top expenses. The fastest way to accelerate your journey to your first $100,000 without a 6-figure salary is going to be to optimize your top expenses. Just a 10% reduction in these expenses can double or even triple your investment capacity. After I took that finance course in 2020, I took 3 months to really track my expenses to see where my money was going and to create a budget. What I realized was that my top expenses were housing, transportation, groceries, and even my taxes, like most Americans. And by bringing those expenses down, I was able to drastically increase my investment rate. For housing, I always had a roommate. So before I got married, this was one of my main strategies to save the most amount of money. My rent is really low. I pay about $1,300 a month. So having that expense lowered really allowed me to invest even more money. For transportation, I drove a paid off car. In 2013, I had purchased a car with savings that I had built from college jobs. And when I got my full-time job in 2017, I didn't upgrade even though I was making more money. All of my colleagues at all workplaces that I've had have always driven new cars, but they had a car payment. So this is another way that I have been able to increase my investment rate. I didn't have a car payment, still don't, and I always shop around for auto insurance the moment that premium goes up. For food, I became a more mindful shopper and brought my total spent on groceries to about $200 a month. I did this by switching where I purchased my groceries. I prioritized bargain and bulk, and I made sure to not only shop at one place for all of my pantry. I spaced hauls apart, and I found that having a 90% ingredient-only household really translated to a lot of savings. And this was the best approach for me to take because it meant I didn't have to sacrifice on quality. And for taxes, I realized the magic of tax-deferred accounts. mostly in my 401k. I realized that the more that I contribute to my 401k, not only am I building my future nest egg, but I'm also lowering my tax burden. So I've been able to save thousands of dollars a year by contributing into this tax deferred account. These optimizations allowed me to do something that sounds almost impossible with my income. It allowed me to invest thousands of dollars a month. In 2021, I was able to invest over 50% of my take home income by optimizing these expenses and having a side hustle. And this is the rate that really helped me accelerate my first milestone that I was so excited to reach, which was the $100,000 invested mark. These categories have the biggest impact for you to be able to invest regardless of your income. So if you can optimize for these expenses rather than looking at the smaller things like subscriptions or coffees or sort of these like random smaller expenses that are usually the first to go out, you're going to see drastic results and you're still going to be able to enjoy your small treats. And think about it. One single decision on an expense like housing is going to have a significant impact over dozens of tiny cutbacks. And the pre-tax savings option is really amazing. When you contribute to tax deferred accounts like your 401k, you see immediate savings. So let's say you are a single filer making $70,000 a year and you invest $20,000 into your 401k, you're going to be saving about $3,000 on taxes. You will have to pay taxes later on in retirement, but this year you could take the $3,000 in savings and invest them instead. And I know this sounds really simple, and I'm not saying that it's necessarily easy, but if you are so clear on what your values are and you're willing to align your spending with your values and not societal expectations, you are really going to set yourself up for success. For me, I found creative ways of bringing these expenses down while maintaining a wonderful quality of life on the areas that really mattered the most to me. This is the approach that helped accelerate my portfolio and continues to do so. After just 2 years of aggressive investing, I was able to reach Coast FI, which allowed me the opportunity to quit that software engineering job and downshift to part-time work in higher education. I decided to go back to school and to build a personal brand. And all of this reinvention that is happening right now is thanks to those decisions that I made. Start by tracking your expenses and identifying which of your biggest expenses you can cut back on as much as possible without compromising a quality of life and, really a standard of life that you're comfortable and safe with. That single change can really put you ahead in your pursuit of your first $100,000 invested. Step 3, invest in an optimal order. There's a specific sequence for where to invest your money to boost your investment contributions, yet people still get this completely wrong. When I reached my first $100,000 in 2021, most of my investments were in my tax advantaged accounts. They were in my 401k and my Roth IRA. It wasn't until 2021 that I actually opened up a brokerage account. Up until 2021, most of my investments were automatically going to my retirement accounts. From my paychecks, they would automatically go to my 401k. They wouldn't even come into my checking account. And then from my checking account, some money would automatically go to my Roth IRA. And it was this automatic setup that really gave me an advantage of not having to think about my investments and prevent me from being emotionally reactive to what was happening in the stock market. And in 2021 is when I opened my first brokerage account, because this was also the first year that I maxed out my 401k and I maxed out my Roth IRA. And I do acknowledge that those are very difficult things to do. But the reality is that unless you're doing that, you probably don't need to be opening up a brokerage account. But I was in this position to open up a brokerage account. In particular, I actually used this account to invest that down payment that I was telling you about earlier. It was really this strategic approach combined with my savings from the last step that allowed me to quickly reach my $100,000 invested and then double it just in a year. There's a clear investment priority that financial experts recommend, and it's what I follow to maximize my tax advantages and my total amount contributed. First thing you want to do is contribute enough money into your 401k to get your employer match. You could think of this as free money, so don't skip this step because you're not going to find any return like it anywhere else. The second thing to do is to contribute to a health savings account. If you have a high deductible health insurance plan, you are eligible for this type of account. The health savings account is triple tax advantage, and it's the only account of its kind. You're going to get tax deductible contributions, tax-free growth, and tax-free withdrawals for medically qualified expenses. And the cool thing about this account is that after you turn 65, you can use the funds in that account that have grown for you for non-medical expenses. So if you don't really need this account for healthcare, it's cool to think about this as another investment vehicle. The third is to max out your Roth IRA. The Roth grows completely tax-free, and every dollar of growth is yours to keep tax-free in retirement. For this year, 2025, you can contribute up to $7,000 a year if you're under age 50. And the fourth thing is to go back to your 401k and max that out. And you can do this beyond the match to work your way up to the maximum allowed for that year. After maxing out all of these accounts, then you can move on to your brokerage account. And in your brokerage account, you're going to have complete flexibility in there. However, you will be paying capital gains tax on the growth. This is just a good rule of thumb, so you will want to consult with a financial professional to get a customized plan for yourself, especially if you're interested in early retirement. But if you're just getting started for your first $100,000, this is the advice that a lot of financial experts give. And this is the path that I specifically took to reach my own first $100,000 invested. By following this order, it means that your dollars are working as efficiently as possible. So start with whatever amount that is comfortable and realistic for you, and increase the amount anytime that your income goes up, or you get a bonus, or your expenses go down. And don't forget, I actually started investing with $25 a month in 2009, and it wasn't until 2021 that I was able to max out all of my accounts after learning advice like this. Your path to your first $100,000 isn't going to be about dramatic single steps. It's going to be about consistently following a proven system that maximizes every dollar invested. It was these 3 steps that paved the path from $0 invested to $100,000 invested without making a 6-figure income in California. Make investing a clear priority, reduce your top expenses, and invest in an optimal order. Just 1 year after reaching my first $100,000 invested in 2022, I was at $200,000 invested. And fast forward to now, 2025, I am at a little over $400,000 invested. Your specific journey might look totally different to mine, but these principles are universal, and they're available to you regardless of your income or your investing experience. Your first $100,000 invested is not just a number. It's a meaningful milestone in which compound interest will start working in your favor. And it's also a point where you might feel an extra level of financial security and even confidence in your own ability to invest. With this blueprint that I shared with you today, you can get there even faster than you might think, even without a 6-figure salary. I'm curious, which of these 3 steps are you currently on? Are you identifying your financial priority? Are you optimizing your biggest expenses, or are you reorganizing the order in which you invest? Let me know in the comments. I would love to get to know you a little bit more. And hey, I'm on a mission to guide 1 million women towards their next financial independence milestone. So if you are FI curious, or if you just want to watch me reach my goals, I invite you to subscribe to this channel and like this video so my next video gets shown to you. In this channel, I'm going to be sharing my own financial independence updates. I'll be sharing stories of real women pursuing financial independence on different incomes, and I'll be sharing more financial independence education. So if you want to learn more, please stick around and check out the description, which has my best resources for you. And follow me on Instagram if you would like to get to know me a little bit more. And if you'd like to see exactly what I'm invested in, you'll get a lot of value from this video that's on your screen right now. I'll see you next week.